What's up, Rockstars? I have a great news video for you. A ton of new announcements and new things coming up, some stretch goals of some other things. Some things are barely just now funding. We'll talk about all of that, including Gloomhaven, towards the end of this right now. All right, so we have a lot to go over. However, my daughter Adeline is here. Say hi.
Hi.
And she drew a picture and wants to share it with you. And since it's my platform, I get to make the videos I want. I'm going to show it to you. You can skip it if you're cruel-hearted. All right, this is the picture she drew. Can you explain this?
Yeah, that's his desk. And
That's my desk.
now you know everything.
Everything on it. Yeah, there's my chair.
Yeah.
There's a little 3D printed crown and my keyboard.
That's his logo on the top.
Yep.
And that's what his desk actually looked like.
That's right. Exactly like that. You did a great job. Do you think they like it?
Yeah.
I bet so too. Okay. All right. Now on to the video. All right, on to the games. There's a ton of campaigns, ton of games to look at, so let's go ahead and do so. This is HacKClaD. This is by Japan-made Games. They bring a lot of these Japanese-made games over to the US and abroad so that you guys can kind of experience that and actually get it like translated and stuff like that. They do a lot of work in that space. This is a kind of like a boss battler. However, it's one that's relatively cheap. Look at that, $50. That's also nice for sure. But it also is one that is very tight. One of the like biggest things that I've seen on this is just how close quarters it is. They talk about, I'm going to scroll down past all of this stuff to kind of show you a little bit about it. I think this is probably the most unique thing here is this right here. It's a 5x5 square grid and the sides loop, so you can't corner them or you can't, get really away from everything. As you can see, they're doing a lot of these big area attacks or something, so it's a lot of juggling and movement involved in this, and it's something that you can't like abuse too much. They can just go straight through to the other side of the, whether they're looping or in this way or this way. I think that's super cool. They have a lot of unique, art pieces. It's very stylized art for sure. I think one of the things that might hurt it a slight bit is, and this happens a lot with Japanese games, especially their card games. I find a lot of the cards I get from Japan are very busy, and they do tend to put a lot of like stuff on their cards and stuff. They have funded, but they haven't launched any stretch goals yet because their stretch goals are kind of like a bump above for some actual miniatures of the actual enemies. But honestly, the like acrylic set probably what I would want anyway, and in fact they even have a chibi version because of course they do. But anyway, this guy's going to be going around. You're going to be playing your cards, your plays like witches or whatever, and you're just trying to defeat him. You get to kind of level up your deck, but they also level up, so everybody's getting stronger. Looks like quite a bit of fun and a neat idea, a little bit different, and certainly something that looks like you can table really quick. It won't take up a ton of your storage space and won't break the bank. So anytime you get a new boss battle like that, I'm certainly interested. That's pretty cool. All right, next up we have Escape from Projekt Riese. This one is right around 50,000 with 500 backers, and this is kind of like a sequel to the Escape from Stalingrad Z. I've covered that before in the past. That was always quite popular. This is kind of like a side to that. So it's not like a direct sequel per se. It's also not just like a remake or more of the same. It is a little bit different. One of the things, I love the fact that it says 1 minute setup right up front. I'm not sure how you can have 1 minute setup with all the tokens. I think you'll be getting stuff out during the play. I'm not sure that's the same. I think it's kind of cheating. If I got just the things I needed out of the box to play a single round, that would probably be pretty quick on all of them. But I get what they're saying. Really quick. In fact, they even have a travel set, which is pretty neat. The one thing you will notice is it is kind of pricey. They definitely are a little on the expensive side. They're almost like Games Workshop kind of skirmish, like tabletop war game style prices. So like for instance, this one you get 28 miniatures and it's 150 USD. So definitely not the same kind of savings that you might be used to for these like cheaper PVC minis and stuff like that. Obviously this is really high quality stuff. In fact, like not only are these like great and, interesting, and it looks like every mini kind of tells a story, and Omega's super cool, but they have one of the single best pictures I've ever seen. This picture is glorious. That looks so good. That is a fantastic picture. If they can make all games look that good, I'd be pretty happy. Just look at the detail on like, like the signature there and stuff like that. And it's thematic. It's neat. It's cool. One thing that I find interesting is it looks kind of like they took a little bit from, the actual like from Reichbusters, where the items are, instead of cards, are like these little tokens. Now, I think there's a little bit more information here than there was on the Reichbuster tokens, but inherently, you know, you can only fit so much data on there. It's a little bit smaller than, you know, a card where you can put more information, but it might not need it. It looks kind of interesting, but it's also interesting that they did that. Not every game does it. A lot of people just go for the cards, have these kind of like tokens, tiles things, but it looks nice, that's for sure. Just a little bit on the pricey side. Next up is Scarface 1920 Bloody Business. This is one I think I'm probably going to grab on Stretch Pay. I'll talk about that in a little bit. They're right at 648,000. We're right at around 4,500 backers. They definitely do good. They're doing all these daily reveals. I'll go through that a little bit. And if you back in the first 48 hours, now I don't know where that is at the time of posting this video, but feel free to check it. Everything is linked down in the description below. Go ahead and check that out. Either way, if you do that, you get the night deck for free, which adds a whole lot of these like different, like a nightclub owner and a gym importer and stuff like that. So just different things there. They're really pushing this never make it to retail thing. I hate the word never. I think it backs businesses up into a corner. If this becomes the next Gloomhaven, I mean, it's not, but like if it did, now you're stuck like going against your word or keeping it there. It's kind of like, to me, naming a business based off the city you're in and then realizing that once you like expand out of that city, now you're kind of screwed in the name. So like just plan ahead. Plan ahead. One of the reasons the name of this channel is The King of Average is because it could change. It started with miniature painting. I now do a lot of industry talk and reviews. That changed, and I was allowed to because I didn't name my video King of Average Painting because that channel would struggle in like other stuff. Anyway, they have a whole bunch of new stuff. It's really kind of an expansion to it. And in fact, they talk about it a little bit here. So the new mechanics are hospitals and doctors, extortions, business track, and the most wanted tokens. It all comes in like this little insert here. And they talk about all the two new gangs. So you have the Golden Oaks, these Canadian gang here. And then you also have the Red Dragon Tongs that deal in like opium and stuff like that. By the way, this miniature is fantastic. I love minis that are of fat people. I think that's hilarious. And it just adds something different that you can do and paint and just looks different on the board. So one of the things they have is just kind of how they're expanding that on the board, which I think is super cool. It just kind of adds a little track right here. So right here, you can see the expansion board that kind of deals with a lot of the new mechanics that you're dealing with here, the most wanted and stuff like that. So very cool to have that. There's a hospital over there. Just adds more to it. It's kind of like expanding Dune Emporium, right? There's just more things to do now, which I think is super cool. The only other thing I wanted to show is this stretch pay. You know, the stretch pay is pretty cool and all that. It's definitely something that's interesting, but if you go here to rewards, you're going to see that it costs $50, which is already a great cost for an expansion, I feel, especially one of this nature. But because it's that, and they actually did the search pay over 5 months, it's $10 a month. So for $10 a month, you can then get this after 5 months. Consider you're going to get the same as anybody else. That's a pretty easy pill to swallow for sure. I think a lot of you guys can afford $10 a month. That doesn't mean you need to spend it on this, of course, but if it just means like the price of a coffee, I mean, it's not bad because at the end of the day, you get an actual like expansion to the board game you own, or you can just grab the two new gangs, or you can get everything there, and even then, that's like what $20 a month for that. So it's still actually quite good. I'm flip-floppy on it. The stretch play, I don't really like the idea of necessarily like financing your board game habit, but at the same time, it's not really financing anyway. It doesn't cost you anything extra or more. It's just splitting it up. Crossbow and Catapults. This one looks like a ton of fun. And so do 5,000 other people. They think the same thing. We're right at about $628,000 raised. Still 18 days to go. This, you know what? There's a GIF here that shows it perfectly. Like, this is what you do. Okay. You build a castle out of this kind of like loosely fitting Lego. It's there on purpose so that it gets knocked over and stuff like that. And then you get to pick your thing, whether you're doing a catapult or, all these different things. And you're shooting it at the other thing, trying to demolish it, and then whoever does it wins. This is very much a dexterity style kind of game. If you have kids, they will love this. This is as simple as that. Probably if there's enough alcohol involved, I think a lot of adults will love it too. So either way, you get these little minis. You still get to move around and stuff, and of course you get to build your castle and design it, and that's kind of fun too. But just overall, very cool, and I think a lot of people have a lot of fun with it. Now, the basic thing of it is $30, but really what you're purchasing are more and more of these to be able to build different and, styled and larger things on that. So if you get like the Fortress of War, you get 90 for $90. You can build even bigger castles and stuff. And then what the vast majority of people are backing for 145, a lot of people really want this, is like everything. So you get all the different weapons and a whole bunch of different little Lego-like pieces, and just looks like a fun evening, especially with kids if you have them. Eldfall Chronicles Northern Wind. They are at almost 200,000. Those are doing quite well for such an indie developer. 898 backers, so we're almost right at that 1,000, which is awesome. And still 20 days ago, still plenty of time to go. They're doing something very unique I'm going to tell you about, so you guys know and you guys are informed about what's going on. It's stuff like this that I kind of research and try and really find out for you guys. So first of all, their daily unlocks are big. Stuff like, hey, now goblins are a faction with all the different rules and minis and stuff for that. So they're really big on these unlocks. They're definitely doing major ones there. 100 plus hours of content. I think the core alone has like 60 plus. As you can see, the minis are fantastic. I will actually be getting, I believe, their skirmish game. They had a prototype, but I didn't get back to them in time, so they kind of moved on from that. But they do have the old one. I can at least show you guys that. You kind of see what you're going to get. Obviously, they're just improving things on this kind of dungeon crawl sequel. But it says solo co-op PvP PvE. It's really a modification to their rules and the components to do a dungeon crawl. But you can still use them in the skirmish and vice versa. So you can do all of that stuff still, which again, very cool. They're talking about these unicool hard plastic minis, and we're going to see some of the minis here that you can see. They are really, really cool. The design of the dungeon crawl reminds me of Shadow of Brimstone with the hallways and rooms. It's definitely that style of thing. It'll be about $120 for that, and you get kind of these minis here, and then all the different, cards and everything else that you need, of course. And then for the $492, which is quite a bit, I mean, that is the all in there, right? So for the $120, you get that. Otherwise, the deluxe pledge is $208. They don't advertise it here. And then if you want the actual all in, you're going to get this right here. The early bird right now is about $541. It's a ton. It's their old campaign too, so it's pretty much two campaigns in one. That's not what I think a lot of you guys need, but it's certainly a lot of content. They don't do a great job showing it here. You can kind of get a sense of how big it is here, though. It's a lot of stuff. And again, I just don't think they show it super well there, but these minis are super cool. I really like the double like goblin stuff with that. A lot of those horde kind of minis I think look good paired up, and they do some great sculpts on them too. So if you see here, I'll just scroll down because they'll show bigger here, but you can see all the different stuff you can get. And the art, of course, I think it looks super cool. Like I really like this guy Frozen here. But if we scroll down here, and their other unlock here was an actual campaign map poster, right? So what they'll have tomorrow, I don't know. Feel free to check them out in the description below, see what it is. But they've unlocked all these different things that they've kind of been doing, like troll miniatures and all that. And see, they're not showing these really well, like the troll mini and the bone walker, but you're going to get actually quite a bit here. And the quality is going to be stellar. I wanted to scroll down briefly to the miniatures just to show you some of the quality. Now, I had a 3D printed versions of their old ones. They were great. They really, really were. So I'm sure these are great too. But what I really wanted to show was this right here. I really like the fact that when you put two minis on that, they're not just putting them side by side and calling it good. They're actually making these super dynamic and interesting poses that are different than anything I have, and I love that. I have so many minis. Anytime I can find something new and unique and different, I'm all for it. So that's super cool. What is the unicool, though? Well, luckily, Infinity here from Corvus Belli has our back and will tell us all about it. So this Unicool is actually a company. They do a lot of like resin statues for like collector's edition stuff and all that, but they've started actually supplying their resin mix to kind of show it. So it's not resin isn't brittle or anything like that. In fact, it's mixed with PVC. So they've found a nice way to mix the PVC into the resin. And what the PVC allows them to do is make them a lot more robust, so they're not so brittle. So you can have the small parts and they're slightly bendy, right? So they're okay there, but they have a really great detail. If Infinity is in it, it's going to be nice. They make really nice, well-detailed minis. This is the quality, like actual production plastic. That's what you get. These are just them painted. They look great. So that's super cool. If that's what they're doing, then that's awesome. You put them together with super glue. Resin does super glue. The miniature glue won't work because it's a little bit of a harder plastic. So they're very nice minis. Definitely kind of exciting. And I think a good entry point, 120 for that, and that quality of this quality of minis, really good. Really, really good. Next up, we have Burning Banners. This is an interesting one. It's at 61,000 raised, 565 backers. I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of growth here per se. It's definitely kind of a hobby first, kind of like these passion, projects that people can do. So this is really big on the art. It looks super cool. You pretty much have this beautiful map, and you're moving all these tiles around and trying to expand and stuff like that. They don't do a great job of explaining the rules without you actually watching a video or reading the rulebook. This is kind of your options here for actually learning some of the rules. They don't really do a lot of high level stuff. They have 4 hand-drawn maps that actually fit together, which is beautiful. That is so cool. And they have all these different kingdoms. You play Orcs, Army of the Night, Eastern Empire. Looks super neat for sure. Definitely interesting. You do get a whole bunch of stuff like spells and heroes, treasures, blessings, all that kind of stuff. But again, I think a lot of these games are cooler than their campaign allows them to actually show, and people just aren't necessarily good at the campaign, which is interesting because Compass Games has made 63 of them. You'd think they'd be a little bit better at it. All right, next up we have the Frost 2. This is by Ian Lovecraft, and he always does a great job with all this. This is by Lane Lovecraft. He always does a great job with all this. 54,000 raised, over 1,000 backers. Still 7 days to go. It's a quick campaign too. If you are into RPGs or anything like that, and you have a 3D printer, this is something for you. Or if you want to have somebody print it for you, he does a great job incorporating the texture of what he's making to work with the FTM so that it just looks great, just like right out of the box. You just paint it and it looks awesome. These aren't really touched up or anything like that. So super cool there. They also do a lot of minis, but a lot of like this down here is always what I've found interesting. Very unique minis where if you want, a town and you're doing that, you can have somebody making pottery or bringing, baked goods or camels in various poses and stuff like that. That sort of stuff is really cool. Now, I imagine people can make all kinds of interesting stories around it. So they do a really good job with that. And of course, their buildings are super cool as well. Next up, we have Paragons Age of Champions. This one did not do nearly as well as I thought it would. I think it looks like a pretty neat game. I think it's not the best campaign page, but a lot of them are like that. It only has 70 backers. It is technically funded. They were only asking for 1,000, so 13 days left, but certainly not like the traction I thought it would get. It has great art. All of it is from one person that drew all 100 unique cards when it comes to the art that you get for that. It looks a little bit like Magic the Gathering, perhaps a bit too much. You're doing all the drafting and deck building that you would kind of really enjoy. And it says it delivers this year, which is super cool also. And again, the art and the style of the mini is super cool. It does have these really big, thick borders. I'm wondering if that's a turnoff for some people. I think it looks nice and definitely changes it up a bit, but obviously having that art bigger would be better, I think, too. But you'll notice on a lot of these cards, it's stuff like, gives a +4/+4, or, just different, the Imbued Mercenary has +2/+0. And then, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff that makes it seem very Magic the Gathering-like. But also seems pretty neat as well. You can get the actual, just the game of it for about $52, which isn't too bad against $17 a month if you want to do the stretch pay. If you want to do the deluxe, it's $123, and then the ultimate, where you get everything, is at $169 for kind of this whole kind of drafting experience, which is super cool. I think the one thing I would like to see more is more cards. I think over 100 would be ideal for longevity reasons, even if there's a lot of ways to kind of build around those. All right, next up we have Stalker, the board game. You guys know about this. The only thing I want to show here, besides the fact that they've broken 10,500 backers, which is quite good, is let's go ahead to the stretch goals here, and you can see some of the latest stuff right here. Some super cool minis, and even the standee version it gets that too. These spiders are cool. Now, I am not sold that eStar is going to produce this mini like this. So this is probably one of the few where I feel Awakened Realms is cheating a bit in the render. These are going to be thickened up, pretty much guaranteed, especially the point of contact, I feel. Some of these are on really skinny bits here, and considering eStar doesn't want to do fingers, I'm not seeing them doing these big spindly parts. I'm sure it'll still look cool, but it's definitely going to get thickened up. Remember, eStar is the one that always does the banana blades a lot of times, where you get this really thick blade. So definitely beyond, I think, their manufacturer of choice's skill level for that. I think their sculptors are a little bit more talented, but it'll still be really cool. But anyway, yep, they're doing all that stuff. So that's pretty much where they're at with that. Thiefdom broke 100,000, still a week to go. That being said, their stretch goals are kind of disappointing. If you look down here at the stretch goals, showed this off last time, not the stretch goals though, they've just unlocked 2, a rules quiz and a digital tutorial. And then next up, they get screen printed thief meeples. The screen printed's nice, but the screen printed here is just a bandana as well. It's not actually like adding a sack or anything like that, unless it's going to be something else. But to put that at the 100,000 just seems very odd. It's very lackluster in that case. So in other words, if you're backing it, you're just getting it for the game, not for any kind of stretch goals or anything like that. Firefly, the game, 10th anniversary. You guys have got a lot to go, so I'm trying to hurry up here. 1.6 million. There's not a whole lot to say about that. They're just keep on trucking. They're at 6,800 backers, and they still have 13 days left to go. I'll probably cover it one more time at the end. All right, next up, we also have Gloomhaven Grand Festival. You guys know this is coming up. Apparently, this pledge train is technically still going on. I don't know how much I believe that it is every 10 minutes, but you know what? There's a permanent train. The hype train never ends. They are at 1.9 million. They were wanting 2 million, so this is now 2.5 days, and they have not funded yet. Let me know at the time this is so I recorded, obviously it's not, and posted. I would be curious to know if it actually funded or not. Let me know. I'll get the comment notifications. I'll go check it out and see what they're doing once it's funded, if they're going to celebrate that in any sort of way. Maybe that hype train will stop. I don't know. So 27 days to go. There's still 8,000 backers. But if you want more information on why I feel this didn't fund the way, let's say, Frosthaven did, where it made 4.5 million from way more backers in a single day by spending less money. There was actually far less. You couldn't spend as much as you can on this one. I have a whole video dedicated to that. I'll link down to that in the description below too. Feel free to give me your thoughts on that. All right, finally, let's get some upcoming stuff. We have Fighting Fantasy Adventures Campaign 1. Fighting Fantasy Adventures is a generic name because this is like from like an IP from like the 80s or something like that. And Fighting Fantasy Adventures wasn't taken, so you can name yourself something like that. Nowadays, all the cool names are taken, and you can't do something. So I think it's cool. I'm okay with these like deep cut IP things where it's like, hey, you remember this cool thing? Well, let's modernize it. Let's do something different. It is a cooperative card game, and it's by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson are bringing that up. Final Girl Series 3. I know a lot of you will be interested in this. Let me know. Did you play all of Season 1 and 2? That's a lot. It's like an entire Calyx shelf, maybe even a bit more at this point. I've seen some of your guys' displays. There's a lot. Are you interested in more? You know, it's like, is this the Zombicide? Can they do a Series 14? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Is there enough room for growth here, or should they maybe move on a little bit off this? I know it's hard to tell. This is a fun one. VHS Very Horror Stories opening night. The second Kickstarter in the vintage horror RPG inside a videotape box. I shared this when the first one came out. This will be on September 13th when this one comes out. They look super cool. I love the look of them. The fact that it looks like an old VHS tape is just amazing. Super duper cool to see that. I love the style. And that is on the inside too. It's kind of like the Tiny Epic Games kind of thing. There's these little games you can play, or like even a Final Girl kind of thing. In that same vein, but 80s horror tropes. So that's kind of what's going on there. So you have like Press Play and Scream and Bloodlust and all that stuff. So looks like a lot of fun. The Isofarian Guard is getting a second printing plus new mechanics. What is interesting about this is if we go over to their update, they said that all of the books will be included in the first edition upgrade pack at no charge to you. So they have kind of a few updates, very, very minor. They're very happy with their first delivery, but there's a few things when it comes to like clarifications and stuff like that. That'll be there for free as long as you buy some of the new stuff. The new stuff is the exploration phase action. There's also some new battle phase stuff. Some different stuff on like defeat and whatnot, updated round order, new field events. So just some cool stuff there. Feel free to read this and check it out. I'll link down in the description below to this update as well. And finally, that's it. And guys, that's it. That's all I had. There's a ton there. Again, there's like a bajillion games down in the description below. I promise. I almost max out the description. There is so much there. Feel free to check it out. That is a resource for you to use by all means. If there's something I missed, something I got wrong, something you want me to know about, let me know in the comments below. I do read those. I don't have time to respond to all of them anymore, but I do read them. You guys help drive this channel. Thank you so much. If you'd like to support videos like this where I dive into these things and learn about them and tell you about them, then there is, of course, a link to Patreon. I'll be doing a Q&A Q&A at the end of this week, so very, very soon, like a day or two. I don't know exactly when this video is going to come up, but feel free to sign up for that. That is for the patrons. I'll go in and do that live stream to them for that, and we'll have a kind of a fun hangout session there. I also do an extended edition where I go deeper into a dive of these, more than I can on the channel proper, just further thoughts on things. Nothing new or crazy. If it was groundbreaking, it'd be here. Won't hold that from you guys, but sometimes there's a lot to talk about, and I can't possibly fit all that. I already do a lot of videos anyway. So if you're interested in all that, Patreon link down below, YouTube membership, all that helps so much. Thank you guys so very much. I'll talk to you guys in very, very soon with a Tenaris update. There will be a review for you guys, so stay tuned for that. Take care, guys.